Welcome, Moonlit Soul. Tonight I'm reading to you from Dancing with the Moonlight, the first book in my Moon and Shadows trilogy. A story of secrets, shadows, and a love that was never meant to exist. In this world, the night is dangerous, and so is the Fae Assassin who's just been sent to kill the werewolf prince. But fate has other plans. So settle in, let the darkness wrap around you, and let's begin. Chapter 1. The Summoning of Shadows. Elowen moved like a whisper through the towering spires of the obsidian court, her form slipping between moonlit shadows with practiced ease. The air crackled with magic, and a soft hum beneath her skin, familiar yet laced with the quiet threat of something far more dangerous than the night. She knew what was waiting for her beyond those doors. Seraphine Vane summoned no one without reason. The grand chamber of the Fae High Command loomed ahead, its arched obsidian doors adorned with intricate silver filigree, each swirling patterns enchanted with words of secrecy and power. Only those Seraphine wished to enter could step beyond this threshold, an ever-present reminder that the Queen's shadow ruled with absolute control. Elowen adjusted the fit of her dark, intricately woven battlesuit, its enchanted threads shifting like liquid silk against her skin. She touched the twin daggers strapped to her thighs, her comfort, her warning, a reminder that no matter how much power Seraphine wielded, Elowen was still a weapon honed for death. With a deep breath, she pushed the doors open. The High Commander of the Fae Assassin Order stood at the chamber's far end, poised like a predator surveying its prey. Seraphine Vane was elegance carved in ice and steel, an unyielding vision of power draped in shadows. Her silver lavender hair cascaded in perfect waves, framing an ethereal and merciless face. Cold blue eyes, like shattered starlight, trapped beneath a winter's frost, pinned Elowen in place, weighing her and measuring her worth instantly. Her gown, woven from midnight silk and enchanted silver embroidery, was armor and declaration. The intricate high collar, adorned with delicate but razor-sharp filigree, flared around her like a crown of thorns. She was regality. She was command. She was the will of the Fae Queen incarnate. She did not offer a greeting. Elowen, Seraphine's voice was smooth, sharp as a blade drawn from its sheath. Elowen strode forward, meeting Seraphine's gaze without flinching. To show hesitation was to show weakness, and weakness had no place in the presence of the Queen's shadow. "You summoned me?" Elowen said, keeping her tone neutral. She would not bow, not yet. Seraphine's lips curled a smile that never reached her eyes. "Do you know why?" Elowen could feel the moment's weight pressing upon her, the air growing thick with magic. Something was shifting, something more dangerous than the countless missions she had been sent on before. "No." A lie, but a necessary. Seraphine tilted her head slightly, considering, before stepping forward. Each measured movement carried the quiet promise of controlled destruction. "You are my finest blade, Elowen," Seraphine murmured, trailing a single-gloved finger along the arcane-etched table beside her, where ancient maps of the supernatural world lay unfurled. "And now I require your sharpest cut." Elowen's fingers twitched, barely restraining the instinct to grip her daggers. She was a soldier, a killer, and yet the anticipation in the room gnawed at something more profound than mere duty. Seraphine's icy gaze bore into her, relentless as a curse. "Rhydian must die." The words landed like thunder through Elowen's bones. She did not allow herself the luxury of a reaction. "Rhydian Dane?" she said instead, as if confirming the weight of her own fate. "The werewolf heir?" Seraphine nodded. stepping closer until there was only a breath of space between them. Elowen could feel her commander's magic pulse, a coiling storm of winter and war. He is more than just an heir, Elowen. Seraphine's voice dropped to something darker, something conspiratorial. He is a threat to the court, to our queen, to everything we have built. Elowen did not respond. She knew better than to speak when Seraphine was weaving her web. You will attend the Peace Summit under a false identity, Seraphine continued, her voice like silk wrapped around steel. You will observe, study, and execute. His death must be clean, untraceable. Elowen held her ground, even as Seraphine's presence pressed against her like frostbite creeping through her veins. Do not fail me, Elowen. A warning whispered like a death sentence. Elowen finally bowed, just enough to be respectful, but not submissive. I won't. Seraphine studied her for a moment longer, then reached into the folds of her gown, producing a single silver ring set with a dark violet gemstone pulsing with arcane energy. A binding charm, a curse waiting to be fulfilled. Seraphine slipped it onto Elowen's finger, and immediately a pulse of magic surged through her veins, locking around her very soul. This will ensure you do not waver. Seraphine's cold smile returned. The moment he dies, it will break. Elowen curled her fingers into a fist, feeling the enchanted metal burn against her skin. She understood what was unspoken. If she failed and faltered, the ring would do far worse than bind her. Seraphine reached around, tilting Elowen's chin up with the faintest touch, her gloved fingers ghosting over her skin with a cruel sort of gentleness. Make me proud, little shadow. Then she turned away, dismissing her without another word. Elowen did not hesitate. She did not look back. With a final steadying breath, she disappeared into the darkness, her mission set, her fate sealed. But deep in her chest, where the binding spell coiled around her ribs, a whisper of unease stirred. She was the sharpest blade in the queen's arsenal, and yet, for the first time in her life, she feared the cut she was meant to make. Elowen walked out of the grand chamber with measured steps. Though her pulse drummed like war beats beneath her skin, the mission had been given, the orders were absolute. She was to kill Rhydian Dane, heir to the werewolf throne, and with his death, she would secure the Fae's dominance in ever-warring balance of power. The ring on her finger, enchanted with Seraphine's binding spell, pulsed like a second heartbeat, its cold energy curling around her bones like chains. It would break when Rhydian Dane took his final breath, or, if she failed, it would break her instead. Failure was not an option, but first she needed to become someone else. The Vault of Shadows. Elowen's destination lay deep beneath the obsidian court, far below the grand halls of power, where the whispers of the Fae elite never reached. The Vault of Shadows, where the Queen's assassins received their masks, weapons, and the false lives they would wear. As she descended the spiraling steps, the air grew colder, thick with the scent of old magic, and steel sharpened too many times to count. The corridor ended at a blackened iron door, etched with ancient Fae glyphs. Elowen pressed her palm against the sigils at its center. The door recognized her touch, unlocking with a whisper of air, the magic slithering away like a shooting serpent. Inside the room was dimly lit, the only source of light, flickering Fae lanterns hanging from twisted iron chains. The walls were lined with artifacts, blades, and stolen identities, tools of deception and death. Phelan Shadowtrick, the quartermaster of the Obsidian Court's most dangerous operatives, stood at the heart of it all. Phelan was a creature of smoke and subtlety, a man who moved between the worlds of Fae and Shadow like a whisper on the wind. His midnight black leathers bore no insignia, no house crest, only the faintest shimmer of protective runes woven into the seams. His ashen hair fell in careless waves, and his sharp violet eyes glinted with perpetual amusement, as if he was forever enjoying a private joke the world would never understand. His reputation was legendary, a trickster, a forger, a weaver of identities so seamless even the wearers sometimes forgot who they once were. As she entered, he looked up from a spread of documents, a dagger curling effortlessly between his fingers. "Elowen," he purred, his voice rich with mischief. "Come to trade in your face for another?" "Ah, my favorite assassin. To what do I owe the pleasure? Here for a new disguise? Or perhaps a way to escape the execution you haven't yet realized is coming?" She stepped forward, expression unreadable. "Seraphine has a contract for me." "Ah, let me guess. It involves a certain wolf prince? You already know?" "Of course I do, darling. The entire court knows, or rather they suspect. A peace treaty between the wolves and the Seelie court? That would be quite the inconvenience for those who thrive on war." "Seraphine claims Rhydian as a threat." "Seraphine claims a lot of things, but this isn't just her paranoia. The court is afraid, Elowen." "Afraid of what? Of werewolves?" "Oh, absolutely. You see, for centuries, we've had the wolves exactly where we wanted them. Divided, scattered, at each other's throats. But this treaty, it changes everything. If Rhydian succeeds in uniting them, if he forges an alliance with the Seelie King, then we lose control. So this isn't just about him, it's about power." "Oh, look at you putting the pieces together." "Yes, love, it's always about power. If Rhydian lives, the balance shifts. The Fae won't be able to manipulate the wolf so easily anymore. And Seraphine, she'd rather slit her own throat than let a werewolf stand as an equal to our kind." "So he has to die before the treaty is signed?" "That's the idea. No heir, no treaty. The wolves fall back into chaos, and we maintain the upper hand." "Do you believe that?" "I believe that people like Seraphine only see the world in winners and corpses, and you, my dear, are being sent to make sure Rhydian is the latter. And if I fail, then Seraphine makes an example of you, and I don't mean a gentle one." A heavy silence lingers between them. Elowen's mind spins. She has always followed orders, never questioned, never doubted. But this was something different. Rhydian wasn't just another name on her kill list. He was the turning point in a war she hadn't even realized she was fighting. And suddenly, failure didn't seem like the worst possible outcome anymore. She lifted her hand, showing him the silver ring that bound her fate. Phelan's smirk faded. His gaze flickered to hers, more calculating now. "Ah, one of those." He turned, pulling out a stack of sealed documents, false records already prepared. "Who are we becoming this time?" "Ilera Valian," Elowen responded without hesitation. Phelan flipped through the papers, nodding approvingly. "A Seelie envoy from the Sapphire Court, scholar in political negotiations, and a minor practitioner of divination magic. A noblewoman just useful enough to be tolerated, but not important enough to be scrutinized." "A perfect mask," she murmured. "Then let's make it real." Phelan's preparations were nothing short of meticulous. He handed her a forged face sigil, the delicate crest shimmering faintly, with false magical traces that would fool even the sharpest eye. It named her as Ilera Valian, a supposed envoy of the Seelie court. Alongside it came a diplomatic scroll bearing the golden seal of the court itself, records of fabricated negotiations, imagined alliances, and signatures of nobles who had never met her. The illusions were perfect. Even the travel permit bore a true Seelie noble's name, borrowed without their knowledge, but written in a hand so authentic it might as well have been law. Her transformation came next. Phelan opened a chest lined with sapphire silk that caught the light like captured moonlight. He chose a garment of noble cut, flowing layers embroidered with threads that glimmered like distant stars. A mask of enchantment was woven in the fabric, its magic subtle but potent enough to shift her scent, disguising her from Rhydian's heightened senses. Under his careful hand, her eyes, usually the piercing shade of violet that betrayed too much, softened to an ethereal blue more befitting a seelie noble. Her long silver-white hair was arranged in elegant waves, pinned with filigree clips etched in court insignias. By the time she stepped back, the assassin was gone, replaced by a woman of grace and dangerous poise. Still, Phelan knew she would not walk into any court unarmed. Her beauty hid her weapons as surely as her name hid her intent. In her hair, he tucked a dagger disguised as an ornamental pin, its slender blade coated in a rare toxin, capable of dulling a wolf's healing. Around her wrist, he secured a small vial of moonstone dust, a last resort to disorient Lycan's senses if cornered. Sewn into her sleeve was a folding blade of shadow steel, its edge glinting faintly with cursed light, and on her finger, a simple silver ring carved with a rune of silence, an artifact that could hush even the sound of her heartbeat if she needed to vanish without a trace. When she finally turned toward the mirror, the reflection staring back was not Elowen of the Hollow Dark. It was Alara Valian, diplomat, deceiver, and ghost of the court, a woman born beneath silk and lies. Phelan stepped back, admiring his work, and just like that, Elowen ceases to exist. Alara Valian is born. She examines herself in the polished silver mirror he held up. She did not recognize the woman who looked back at her. Final preparations. Phelan leaned against the desk, arms folded. You'll be at the Peace Summit. That's dangerous ground, even for you. Elowen fastened the last of her silk gloves, the hidden daggers securing in place. Everything is dangerous ground. A flicker of something crossed his gaze, something knowing. And what is Seraphine asking for in return? Elowen met his stare in the reflection, unreadable as the night sky. A corpse. Phelan let out a slow breath, shaking his head. And if you don't deliver? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The binding spell would see to that. The path ahead. Phelan handed her one last item, a small silver pendant with the faintly glowing rune. A failsafe, he muttered. If things go wrong, this will get you out. She closed her fingers around it, tucking it into the folds of her gown. Try not to die, Alara Valian, Phelan mused, watching as she strode toward the chamber's exit. Elowen did not turn back. She would no longer be herself by the time she reached the summit, and by the time this mission ended, Rhydian Dane would be dead, or she would be. There was no in-between. The price of failure. Elowen kneeled before Lady Seraphine Vane, her head lowered in obedience, though every muscle in her body was restrained. The chamber was suffocatingly quiet, and the weight of the expectation pressed against her ribs like a vice. Behind her, the torches flickered, their light bending unnaturally, as if even the flames feared Seraphine's wrath. The polished obsidian floor reflected the elegant figure before her. Seraphine, a vision of ice and steel, seated upon her throne-like chair, watching Elowen, the gaze of a perpetrator weighing whether or not to devour its prey. The ring on Elowen's finger pulsed, a cold reminder of her binding spell, a tether to Seraphine's will. She could still feel the residual magic of his enchantment coiling through her veins, like a poison waiting to be activated. I gave you an order. Seraphine's voice was soft, but it carried the weight of a blade pressed against her throat. You understand what that means, don't you? Elowen kept her breathing steady, her expression unreadable, her instincts screaming at her to be careful. Yes, my lady, she replied smoothly, lifting her chin just enough to meet Seraphine's piercing blue gaze. Seraphine sighed as if bored, discussing something utterly beneath her. Then why do I sense hesitation? Elowen did not flinch. I do not hesitate. A smile ghosted over Seraphine's lips, though it lacked warmth. Good, she murmured, standing and circling Elowen with measured steps. Her gown barely made a sound as she moved like a wraith gliding across the floor. You have never failed me before, Seraphine continued, a dangerous undercurrent in her tone. But I'm not naive. Even the sharpest blades are dull if not properly maintained, and I have invested so much in you. She stopped behind Elowen, placing a single, cold hand on her shoulder. You are my finest creation, she whispered, her voice brushing against Elowen's ear like a curse. But even a weapon as perfect as you is replaceable if it becomes dull. The unspoken threat sent an involuntary chill down Elowen's spine. Seraphine withdrew her touch and stepped away, her presence still suffocating, still inescapable. Tell me, Elowen, she mused, walking towards the polished desk where a small glimmering crystal lay upon a velvet cloth. She lifted the crystal, her fingers trailing over its smooth surface, before she murmured an incantation. The air around them shimmered as an image flickered to life within the crystal's depths. Elowen stilled. The vision showed a small cottage, hidden deep in unseelie wilds. Its ivy-wrapped walls and rustic charm were a stark contrast to the cold brutality of the obsidian court. And standing outside, tending to a small garden, was a woman with dark hair streaked with silver. Her movements were gentle, her presence peaceful. Elowen's mother. Seraphine's smile was a dagger wrapped in silk. She is well, Seraphine mused, for now. Elowen's fists clenched, nails pressing into her palms, but she did not react. She would not give Seraphine the satisfaction. Seraphine turned back to Elowen, tilting her head in mock curiosity. Do you think I wouldn't know where she was? Did you think I wouldn't keep an eye on the people who matter to you? Elowen's throat tightened. She had spent years keeping her mother hidden, ensuring her safety by distancing herself, never making contact, never giving Seraphine a reason to look for her, and yet here they were. Failure has consequences, my dear, Seraphine continued, her voice still maddeningly calm. Do not make me remind you of them. Elowen forced herself to speak, her voice steady despite the fire burning beneath her skin. You don't need to threaten me, my lady. Seraphine laughed softly, as if the idea amused her. Oh, but I do. I have some warriors far stronger than you fall to the foolishness of sentiment. She waved a dismissive hand, and the vision within the crystal vanished in a flicker of silver light. I expect you to complete this mission without complication, Seraphine said, her tone returning to that of a queen addressing her most obedient subject. You will kill Rhydian Dane. You will not falter. You will not question. And you will not hesitate. Elowen rose to her feet, the storm inside her, with a practiced ease. I understand. Seraphine studied her long before offering a slow, approving nod. Good. She gestured toward the door, a silent dismissal. Elowen bowed once, sharp and precise, before turning on her heel and walking out of the chamber. The weight of fate. The hallways of the obsidian court stretched before her, lined with the midnight-colored banners and enchanted runes that pulsed faintly under the dim light. Each step she took echoed, but the silence in her mind was far louder. She knew Seraphine meant her threat. If she failed, her mother would not live to see another sunrise. She could not afford doubt. She could not afford weakness. And yet, as she stepped into the cool night air, the wind carrying the scent of rain and damp earth, a foreboding weight settled deep in her bones. This mission was different. Something was coming, something far beyond Seraphine's manipulations, beyond the cold brutality of her orders. A shift in fate, a choice she was never meant to have. For the first time in her life, Elowen felt terrible that this mission would not end the way Seraphine wanted. And if that was true, then the price of her hesitation would be far greater than what she had imagined. Thank you so much for listening to Chapter 1 of Dance with the Moonlight. I hope you felt the pulse of the moon, the shadow of secrets, and the first spark of something forbidden between Elowen and Rhydian. If you're ready to follow their story deeper into assassin's vows, tangled loyalties, stolen kisses, and a crown steeped in betrayal, you can continue the journey by becoming a subscriber on my Patreon. There, you'll get access to exclusive chapters, bonus scenes, behind-the-scenes extras, and special stories that aren't available anywhere else. Or, if you'd prefer to dive in right now, the full ebook of Dance with the Moonlight is available on my website, KeiraAdams.com. However you choose to follow Elowen's path, I'm grateful to have you here. Until next time, stay wild, stay wicked, and don't trust the moonlight.